Hey y'all, this is Blazing Diamond Rose. This is my third video in my mini series, Beautiful Soldiers. The main topic or the main focus of this video will be dream discernment, discerning dreams. Now, I've been a bit disturbed for the past week or so. It just hasn't been the greatest week for me. So this little spill is going to be a little long, but I'll try not to make the video so long. I'll try to leave most of the content in the little detailed description so you can read and reflect and do your own research and reflection, as I was saying, on your own experiences and knowledge of experiences of others who's gone through similar things as we have, as Christians, as persecuted Christians, as targeted individuals in these end times. Now again, the title of this is Beautiful Soldiers Part 3, and the focus is dream discernment. I have several things I want to cover. But the main points I'm gonna say is dream discernment, and how the two main points that really irk me and get on my nerves is the ideology that these demonic spirits or demonic entities, these pseudo spirits, can actually swap souls, take not just influence us, but take our souls and send us somewhere, or take over someone's soul, someone's body, and just repossess them, and like they're completely vacant, or what's the other thing? Yeah, just take over people's souls and then just hold them in that where they're unable to take their snap out of that, right? And through dreams and through sin, kind of like that Johnny Blaze stuff, or that or he supposedly made a deal with the devil, and then he went to the devil, or was going through the devil. Somehow he didn't believe he can go to God, and so he was just stuck in this pact, this blood pact, or this soul pact with Satan, and had to do Satan's bidding, right? The hell. Anyway, yeah. So that was one of the points I was upset about. What was the other one? I just lost that point. I was pissed off about it. And the other thing was the blend of not just, like I said, these occultic practices that try to tap into the realm of the spirit world, or the realm of people who have passed away, who have died. I'm saying, dead people, dead spirits, trying to have that sixth sense mentality and want to play with it. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute. It's again, it all goes back to intentions. What are they trying to do? Why are they trying to tap into these realms, these spirit realms, and mess with dead people, and cross over into that stuff? And what's their purpose? What's their intention of that? Are they trying to use these people as guides to encourage us, or are they trying to do grimy stuff? Just think about it, especially with these people that lived a wonderful life. You know what I'm saying? You may not even suspect them to be in hell. Like, you expect them to be with Jesus and God, and like they're trying to use these dead people's images or imagery and voice, and to confuse us, to distort us, to they're already supposed to be, they're like those people in Hebrews 12:23. They're already supposed to be sitting up in the highest realms in the mountains with the Lord God Almighty. They're already been made perfect. They're already been made righteous. So to try to distort and defame and slander their image or their character now, it's just like, these again are the people, are our ancestors that we're waiting to meet up with Jesus. That's we're gonna meet up with on the resurrection day. So again, how would that benefit the enemy, or enemy spirits, enemy entities that are trying to blend these things with us and distort, throw us off by using these things to try to handle us and manipulate us, right? Oh, but the other thing was, right, in these blends of these occultic practices, actually using technology or whatever to hack into our brains and project things in our brain through actual technology, not just through sorcery or wishful thinking and stuff like that, right? And so if they're able to do these so-called deep fake dreams, project these things in our brain, astral project themselves forcefully into our world, into our into our dream world, our dreamscape, or project anyone's image in there, right? Again, so I'm talking about how they get access to that through our images that we already put online through like Facebook and Instagram and what I say before that, Snapchat crap, and how our voice is already on the phone or whatever. All these apps that we tap into, providing our voice, providing our images, just tons and tons of our images of ourselves, our family, and whatever. All these little apps, so-called playful apps, swapping heads and swapping bodies, doing voiceovers or whatever. If you ever played with Photoshop and videos and stuff like that. I mean, so how much more can they just transfer all that stuff through a lot of time and effort, and just like, what the hell, right? Collecting all that information and then trying to formulate whatever and trying to project that in your brain on a nefarious level. So yeah, so I was talking about how we can track our images. We can research our images. We can research our voice. And thankfully, like I said, it's pretty much an even playing field, right? When you're made aware of that, you can do that. You can research your, you can do a Google search or whatever on your voice, on your image, on a clip of a video. And you can see if it's through different apps and technology. Just as much as they have apps to do grimy stuff, they have apps to do good stuff, right? So if you can see if your voice was altered or used or uploaded on some video, cloned or duplicated or whatever, if your body images was distorted. Particularly, again, the most important thing, people usually don't care too much about that, but they care much about if it's used in a offensive, derogatory, sexual, solicitory way, especially if it's family members, especially if it's children, especially if it's elderly, especially if it's people who are vulnerable and naive, who wouldn't even do such things, who are not even capable, defenseless people who can't even voice or normally would voice or stand up for themselves, right? Particularly children, elderly, or mentally handicapped. I mean, they just using their images, any kind of ways to earn profit or for entertainment or to be controversial and stuff. Like I came across this article the other day or the other week or whatever. This lady, She somehow discovered that her daughter's image or likeness was used in the production of sex dolls, childlike sex dolls. I didn't even know there was such a thing. Childlike sex dolls, inflatable dolls using the likeness of children, right? And somehow she was able to identify that her child's image somehow was captured off the internet and used for some of the production of these dolls of these types, and she was able to prosecute them, take them to court, and had the sites take down the sites and some stuff like that. So and it's not just that. Think about all the hidden websites and chat rooms and just blog sites, and then just stuff in in the black market, so-called black market or whatever. Just obscene stuff where they use just factories of people's images, right? You know what I'm saying? Whether they be so-called celebrities or everyday people or family members. And think about how much imagery, how much videos, especially through Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat, whatever, and YouTube, people load up every day, and they don't even stop to think that somebody might try to download their stuff and chop and screw it any kind of way, right? Customize it for them and for evil, malicious, perverted means. So anyway, yeah, so I was going to talk about that a little bit, but you can get that information from the stuff I'll put in the details at the bottom. So anyway, let me get to this. Like I said, I'll try to cover the main points. I was just so upset. God damn, I'm just tired of these again, wannabe scarecrows. These scarecrow Freddy Krueger tactics on my brain, down there 24/7. You know what I mean? But anyway, I want to read from Psalm 107, right? Book 5. It's about how the Lord rescues his people from many troubles. How no matter how deep in the trenches or almost bottomless they may seem, or far out in the ozone or a twilight zone, or just far beyond salvation they seem, or just on gridlock or whatever, that if they call out to him, right, in sincerity, in spirit and truth, right, if they call out to him, God will hear them. God will listen to them, right? God will answer them according to his will. If they speak, if they call out to him, they cry out to him, right? In faith, right? Believing and trusting that he will answer them. Honestly seeking him, not seeking some idol, right? Not seeking some other person, not just seeking a way to, because they can't figure something out themselves, but actually seeking God and knowing who they're calling on, right? Not some genie, right? Not some movie hero, you know what I'm saying? Not some wannabe, but actually calling on the Lord. Anyway, so the Lord rescues people from many troubles. Psalm 107. I'll give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his compassion and loving kindness endure forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, whom he has redeemed from the hand of the adversary, and gathered them from the lands, from the east and from the west, and from the north and from the south. They wandered in the wilderness, in a solitary desert region. of where was I? They wandered in the wilderness in a solitary desert region and did not find a way to an inhabited city. Hungry and thirsty, they fainted. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he rescued them from their distresses. He led them by the straight way to an inhabited city where they could establish their homes. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his loving kindness and for his wonderful acts to the children of men. For he satisfies the parched throat and fills the hungry appetite with what is good. Some dwelt in darkness and in the deep, deathly darkness, prisoners bound in misery and chains, because they had rebelled against the precepts of God and spurned the counsel of the Most High. Therefore he humbled their heart with hard labor. They stumbled, and there was no one to help. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he saved them from their distresses. He brought them out of darkness in the deep, deathly darkness, and broke their bonds apart. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his loving kindness and for his wonderful acts to the children of men. For he has shattered the gates of bronze and cut the bars of iron apart. Fools, because of their rebellious way and because of their sins, were afflicted. They detested all kinds of food, and they drew near to the gates of death. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he saved them from their distresses. He sent his word and healed them and rescued them from their destruction. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his loving kindness, for his wonderful acts to the children of men. And let them offer the sacrifices of thanksgiving and speak of his deeds with shouts of joy. Those who go down to the sea in ships, who do business on great waters. They have seen the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. For he spoke and raised up a stormy wind, which lifted up the waves of the sea. They went up toward the heavens on the crest of the waves. They went down again to the depths of the watery trough. Their courage melted away and their misery. They staggered and trembled like drunken men and were at their wits' end. All their wisdom was useless. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he brought them out of their distresses. He hushed the storm to a gentle whisper, so that the waves of the sea were still. Then they were glad because of the calm, and he guided them to their desired haven or harbor. Let them give thanks to the Lord, Let them give thanks to the Lord for his loving kindness and for his wonderful acts to the children of men. Let them exalt him also in the congregation of the people and praise him at the seat of the elders. He turns rivers into a wilderness and springs of water into a thirsty ground, a productive land into a barren salt waste, because of the wickedness of those who dwell in it. He turns a wilderness into a pool of water and a dry land into springs of water. And there he has the hungry dwell, so that they may establish an inhabited city and sow fields and plant vineyards and produce an abundant harvest. Also, he blesses them so that they multiply greatly, and he does not let the number of their cattle decrease. When they are diminished and bowed down, humbled through oppression, misery, and sorrow, he pours contempt on princes and makes them wander in a pathless wasteland. Yet he sets the needy securely on high, away from affliction, and makes their families like a flock. The upright see it and rejoice, but all unrighteousness shuts his mouth. Who is wise? Let him observe and heed these things and thoughtfully consider. the loving kindness of the Lord. Now, I'm going to quickly make explain my point on why I chose that particular psalm. One is book 5. Right? Book 5 represents like the crown, right? Like the crown of life, right? There's supposed to be 5 crowns actually, but I'm not going into that right now. But like it says in Revelations 2:10, if we are faithful even unto death, God will give us the crown of life. So this is book 5. This represents all the extremes on that scale of lust and depravity we can go when we go away from God, and rebellion and unfaithfulness and just recklessness and sin and curiosity and doubt or whatever, right? And wicked, reckless imaginations. So God is the ultimate. It may not seem like the appropriate word, but God is sovereign over everything. So he's the ultimate alchemist to me in this particular context, because no matter what realm we are in, he's over it all. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing he doesn't have sovereignty over. There's nothing we can do, imagine, or conceive or believe that he doesn't have sovereignty over, even though he gives us choice and personal will, right? And free will to make choices, to accept him or turn away from him or whatever, right? So in this particular psalm is talking about all these extremes, these people, how far they went away from God, but yet they were never unreachable. They were never unsalvageable. They were never unsavable. However you want to look at it, for God to, stretch out his hands, his arms, right? Stretch out his angels, stretch out himself, extend himself, and go get them. Go pull them up, go snatch them up, go lift them up. When they called out to him, right? When they called out to him in spirit and truth, in repentance, right? In regret and remorse and shame, in brokenness, with a contrite heart. What does it say? God is close to the brokenhearted, right? And he comforts all who are broken, right? He's close to them. It may not seem like he is, but he's close to them. That's his word, right? So he's quickly able, no matter what situation we're in, no matter what so-called realm of thought or realm of illusion or realm of reality that we're supposedly in, or it's like one of those I was looking at, or it's a sacred diagram or sacred event or whatever, and he's always at the center of it. There's nowhere. You think of how spiders, another probably not great example. Whenever do you see a spider get trapped on its own web, right? How much bigger, how much greater is God? He can just swipe that with his sword, right? There's no spider web that he can get trapped in. But think about that, right? In the sense of these layers and layers and layers of so-called realms that these anti-spirits, right, are trying to overlap with us, and then our own, like I said, our own agnostic ways, right? Our own doubtful ways, and then and then those who are strictly trying to stay on path with the Lord. How they all overlap and stuff. What's that? That entanglement thing, that huge net, right? But we're nowhere on there, nowhere in there, nowhere in the midst of that are we unattainable? Are we unreachable? Are we unsalvageable to God if we reach out to him, if we call out to him in spirit and truth, in prayer, right? In reverence. If we remember him, right? It's like remembering, I have a father. I have a heavenly father. I have a mother. But we're in this context, we're talking about God alone, right? We're talking about him, the highest. So That's why I wanted to share that, right? Because that's a reminder of how God has the initial final say. God is, we're at his discretion ultimately. He gives us choice and free will, but we're always within his sovereignty. We're always at his discretion. You know what I'm saying? And fortunately, it's always his will to want to redeem us, to want to renew us, to want to discipline us, to want to heal us, right? To want to bring us closer to him, refresh, bring us back to where we were supposed to be from the beginning, not just replace us or deem us disposable, right? Like we're some manufactured doll, right? But that we're his creation that grew with him, that grew inside, and that he caused to grow, right? Not just appear out of thin air, right? So I'm going to get into this dream discernment. I'm gonna try to right? The main point, some main points of it. All right. Demons supposedly snatch, scatter, and replace souls. Movies and folklore that support this theory, examples of that would be like the Changeling, or actually the theory, that's an Irish folklore, the Changeling with these supposed angels or demon, but I don't want to call them angels, call them demons, steal these little babies, snatch them up like they some damn stork or something, snatch them up when they're babies and replace them with these trolls. So, and demons, I don't know what the purpose of that is, right? And the movie Pinned, that came out in 2015, Peter goes back into the netherworld, or the Neverland, which in the Bible, the netherworld is called the place of the dead. Anyway, the Peter while takes these but in the movie, there's these children that are forced to be slaves and mined for fairy dust or whatever. I'm not really sure what the fairy dust is supposed to represent, really. But children are captured, or so to speak, not physically, but spiritually. Their souls are supposedly captured, whisked away, spirited away, while they're sleeping, and taken off in this foreign realm, right? And made to be slaves, mining for so-called fairy dust, right? And the movie, the animated film, which won some awards, I guess, it was called Spirited Away. Came out in 2001, where this little girl and her parents were spirited away into some weird world where her parents were turned into pigs, and she had to try to figure out how to save them and bring them back to the reality, real world. It seemed like they was in like a place where she had to work for their salvation, almost like a purgatory type world. A movie, The Cell, in 2000, it had believe it had Jennifer Lopez and this dude that was in the Full Metal Jacket. He played the villain or whatever, where she was a police officer or psychiatrist, one or the other. I think she was a police officer though, where she got hooked up to this machine and tried to go into his brain, into his dream world, to engage with him, to try to get him to confess on where he hid some bodies, or so-called bodies, so she can save some people's lives, right? And the movie The Labyrinth, that had David Bowie, the rock singer or whatever. That was in 1986, right? Supposedly she and the girl in there, it was a girl and a brother. The girl supposedly was just talking offhand and made a silent wish that she wished her brother was kidnapped by goblins or whatever. And so this goblin king stole her brother, kidnapped her brother, and then she had to go through all these squabbles with these goblins to try to get her brother back, her baby brother back, and she was able to do that. Right? The most vicious one, though, I really don't like this example, but it was a movie I saw when I was, I was younger. I was, 18, just out of school, high school, whatever. It was called The End of Days. And they had a really vicious scene in there. It came out in 1998. It had this dude in there. It was about Satan trying to capture this girl and impregnate her or whatever. For somehow she was a very important girl, and these demons were trying to have custody over her and turn her over to Satan. And then there was this cop named Jericho. It had Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, who felt destined to try to protect her and intervene, right? Well, the thing in the particular parts in the movie that I really didn't like, where even though goodness went out in the end, the girl was saved, and Jericho was made into, he sacrificed himself in the end to save the girl's life, and he was taken to heaven or whatever, and the devil was defeated in the end. It still has some vicious parts where he was able to do some things that seemed similar to Jesus, where he was able to kill some people and then bring them back to life, but more so made them seem like goons, where they were in between life and death. They were just like zombies and stuff. And then he was using these type of goons to taunt Jericho, to the hero of the movie, to try to get on his side and do what he wanted him to do. And then he raped this on one of the scenes where he particularly targeted this family, where he killed the father or whatever, and then raped the mother and the daughter in the same scene, right? So it was really vicious. So what was talking about right there is or it seems to support being able to snatch, scatter, and replace souls, if not temporarily, but permanently, right? Just snatch them up, and these demons or demonic spirits just have power to do so, and just have ready access to do that, and we can't do nothing about it. You know what I'm saying? So who does soul swapping benefit? It benefits those who believe in cycles of reincarnation and karma, not resurrection, not salvation, and not final judgment, right? It benefits these type of philosophies, schemes, or beliefs, benefit those who believe in reincarnation and karma, right? Not resurrection and salvation and judgment. Think about how those things are starkly different. Reincarnation is not the same thing as resurrection, right? It says in the Bible, our weapons are not carnal, right? They're not of the flesh, right? Christians just don't go around taking over other Christians' bodies, other people's bodies. We can pray for, we can intercede for, we just can't. My fellow sister in the church, if I was going to church, or brother, can't just pray for me and just intercede and go in my body and take me over. It would seem like that would be simple, especially if they wanted to get me in line, right? But that's not the way of God. That's not the way of the church. That's the way of demons, right? So it benefits those who believe in cycles. Notice I said cycles. They need these things to keep going. They don't want to break apart from them. They profit off of them. It's profit, right? Cycles of reincarnation and karma. And like, what's karma? They supposedly, what goes around comes around. Whatever happens to you, it happens to someone. Is that necessarily true though? You know what I'm saying? It's like, happens so, I mean, just it keeps passing and passing around and eventually come to you, whether you believe you deserved it or not. You know, and again, that's like showing that God makes out like God is unfair, that he can't individualize some things, right? That he doesn't look at everyone each individually, right? That, you know, he'll just punish so-and-so and so-and-so because of so-and-so and so-and-so. And that's not always the case. Like, there were situations where he did allow cursings or generational curses from ancestors to pass on to their descendants. But that was up until Jesus, right? That was up until Jesus, to the third and fourth generation, right? That was up until Jesus. It talks about that again in Ezekiel 18. The father will not suffer for the son's sins, and the son and the daughter will not suffer for the sins of the parents, right? That was only until a certain time frame, a deadline. And Jesus fulfilled that, right? He already did that. So again, it's blasphemy, it's heretic, it's heresy, right? So again, who will benefit from that, right? Such do not believe in salvation or redemption, obviously, but an eternal caste system or game avatar theology fed by imagination, only the insatiable desire to possess, condemn, and enslave. Just think about that, right? They prefer a caste system. Not everyone can be saved or should be saved. If they want to be saved and could be saved. Some people just want to keep people in a caste system. No, these certain people should just remain in the caste, right? Not just completely get rid of all evil or the even ability to think of evil things. Oh, I don't really want to keep certain people in this. It's like having a cure to a disease, but not really wanting to cure the people. Just wanting, address certain symptoms of it, but profiting off of people's weakness and frailty so you can keep them coming back to you for, to address their symptoms, but they're never truly cured. So they remain dependent. They remain fiends or addicts. They're not really can really truly be self-sufficient. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to be completely self-sufficient to extent anyway until we'll be completely sanctified and purified through God, through the Lord. And that only comes through the Lord, through good intentions, through right intentions, right? And those intentions are really the cliche of good intentions. What was that I'm saying? Pave the road for good intentions or something like that. But again, it's like, who benefits from these certain slogans or sayings or distortions of ideologies in our head? So anyway, right? Such do not believe in salvation or redemption, but an eternal caste system or game avatar theology fed by imagination, where where only certain people stay elite and certain people stay at the bottom of the so-called totem pole. Nobody is ever truly on the same playing field with the same goals and mentality, right? And again, that's against the Bible, right? That's against Christ's teachings, right? Weakness and breaches, dreams, subconscious, sin, doubt, curiosity, defiance, confusion, jealousy, envy, hatred, despair, lust, and unnecessary risk. Again, these are weaknesses and breaches, that these things can try to tap into us, right? Through these things, right? Unnecessary risk, demonic and hedonistic influences. Hedonistic is just the constant desire for pleasure. Anything that's pleasurable, right? You can want it in excess, right? So it's constantly seeking pleasure over everything else. They don't ever want to experience any level of restraint or pain or necessary pain or whatever. Everything has to be pleasurable to you, constantly seeking pleasure. So that's what hedonistic is about. So demonic and hedonistic influence are dependent on repetitive conditioning, controlled stimuli, and patterns. Demons typically operate in clusters and teams, not individually. Think of what I said before. Raptors, right? Point 2. Any individual, group, nation, or kingdom divided among itself will not stand, right? Now, and I have a lot of meat here, and this video is long. So, like I said, I'm going to try to cut it short. So, I'm going to leave the rest of you to read. But, I mean, any individual, group, nation, or kingdom divided among itself will not stand. Let's think about that, right? For example, in Habakkuk 2:11, right? Where it's talking about the soldier at his guard post, and God is making him, forcing him see all these perverted, all these violent, all these sinful things. And he doesn't understand why God's making him see these things, and he's not trying to see them. It's just like throwing them in his face and stuff. And like, what he's supposed to do about them. And then it makes him seem like he's weak and worthless, right? Because how he's supposed to defend against these things? These things are just, seeming to overpower him and stuff. So he wants to know what he's supposed to do, right? How he's supposed to respond to this, because he feels like he's at his wit's end, right? And in verse 11 of Habakkuk 2, it says, "For the stones will cry out from the wall, and the rafters will echo it from the woodwork. Woe to him who builds a city with bloodshed and establishes a town by iniquity. Is it not indeed from the Lord of hosts that the labor of the people only feeds the fire, and the nations weary themselves in vain?" Now, why that particularly stands out to me, because again, whether we're talking about a so-called CGI realm, an imagined realm, a demonic realm, a dream realm or world, right? Or actually reality, right? Again, we're in a Venn diagram, or sacred shape, sacred geometry, however you want to look at it, right? Where God is the chief cornerstone of that, right? Jesus is the chief cornerstone of that. So when these things are going to start crying out and screaming out, right? You've seen in those videos where they try to form these dream worlds, and then these dream worlds start crumbling in on them. Or you've seen people try to do some Tomb Raider stuff and steal some jewels or whatever from the tomb, and then once they steal the jewel, or go in a museum and snatch the jewel or painting or whatever the hell, then all of a sudden all the alarms go off, right? Or if it's a cave, all of a sudden all these rocks start falling down, and they gotta hurry up and try to get outside and get out of the cave before they get thrown underground. Think of like Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade and stuff like that, right? That's gonna be like, to me, this describes a natural situation, right? When we go against God and when we go against creation. Well, creation will start from, like what it says in, I think it's Matthew 24, verse 2, right? When he says, not all look at all these stones, look at all these buildings, right? Not one of them will remain. All these stones will fall. Not one of them will remain, right? So all these stones will come down, right? And that is both a frightening but inevitable thing that's going to happen. Like, all of heaven, all the starry host, right? All these unripened figs will be coming down, right? It'll be coming. It's gonna, So all these things will be coming down to confront each other, right? It'll be huge confrontation. Again, think of Revelations 19, right? Or think of, if you ever watched X-Men. You ever seen the intro of X-Men, the cartoon, as a kid? I don't know, I'm an 80s baby. But where you see these mutants on one side and these mutants on the other, and then they's running up on each other and stuff head on. You know what I'm saying? So so when I think about this, I think of them running up on each other, and then the ones coming down from the top, and then you got these ones coming from up under the ground. So it's just like, it's like Philippians, right? 2:10, right? So anyway, so I'm just like, we gotta be ready for that. You know what I'm saying? Because what's that? Habakkuk 2:11. There's no partiality with God, right? So it's gonna be a reckoning, right? So angels were first created to be guardians, servants, messengers of heaven and God's creation. They were the original light bearers, right? So these demonic things, right? These demonic beings, these defectives, these ones that decided to cause anarchy and go against God. They're not only trying to turn us, they're trying to turn the angels that were originally created to be our protectors, our defenders, our servants, right? Our bodyguards, right? And so they playing off again. How can they cause us to want to covet each other's positions and cause mutiny and stuff like that, right? Demons do not have. What it says that God is the one who disperses spirits and souls and reconciles them, right? God is the one who disperses spirits and souls, not demons, through his angels by blinding, binding, or seeming to remove his presence or the knowledge of his presence, right? So I think about all the times when we feel alone or we feel alienated. It's a lot of times because we're listening to the wind or we're smelling smoke, right? We're being hazed by the elements, right? We're not looking or not seeking God because he's allowed us to think that he's not there, right? Or just surrounded by his pinions. You know what I'm saying? So when you got a whole bunch of pinions together, you're going to have some bickering, right? You're going to have some contention, right? Demons do not have direct access to people. Only God, Christ, the Holy Spirit. Angels and human beings are able to gain direct access to people, right? Only God, Christ, the Holy Spirit, angels, and human beings are able to gain direct access to people, right? Demons, though, need and breed through permission from God or breaches through human sin or human frailty or nativity. I mean, think about that. Think about the experiences, the stories in the Bible. Think about the things you've been through. Think about the things you've heard about. Really think about how they operate, right? How they manipulate, how they try to triangulate, all that. You know what I'm saying? And again, they can't just do it directly. You know what I'm saying? They need to try to draw you into them and draw you out of something. Draw you into them and draw you out of something, or draw you into something that you shouldn't be drawn into, right? Distract you again from your position, get you out of character, right? Out of position of what God has given you to be in, whatever that may be, domain, position, character, title, family, and draw you into something else, trying to cause you to covet what you shouldn't covet, you know? What's coveting? Wanting something that belongs to something else. Wanting something that you shouldn't even want. As if you don't already have what you need or what's best for you. Right? Anyway, so these demonic things are trying to manipulate on multiple levels. Right? And so, again, they have to go through God. They have to go through Jesus. They have to go through the angels. And they have to go through us when we're sinning. They have to play off our ignorance. So they can't just come at us directly. Right? So, of course, when they have all that to go up against, they have to, do some manipulative schemes. They're constantly trying to manipulate and deceive. You know what I'm saying? But it's all in their realm of weaponry. Nothing unknown to God. God's already aware that these things are trying to play him on himself and play him on his own and play everything. Like, just think about how he just sits back and observes all that, right? And then plays them on each other, right? The bridge and bond between angels and humans. Angels who were created to solely worship God and guard and defend his kingdom and all creation, particularly humans destined for and rising to salvation and God's ultimate redemption. They were created to do all his bidding, carry out and deliver his messages with his discretion and mission of righteousness in mind. Angels were the original light bearers. Yeah, I said this already, right? And meant to distinguish, set in order, light from darkness and boundaries for both time and creation. Right? And then God set and made Christ and humankind a little lower than the angels to become the ultimate heirs, prized possession, and keys of reconciliation between God and creation. Right? So he created like an anomaly, right? And then demons strategically attacking gatekeepers, portals, households, and temples by targeting bloodlines and angelic imperial guardianship. This is plain and simple what it is, right? So we had these set orders, and then of course they try to mix that up, and it started with that woman in heaven who was pregnant, right, with Jesus. Right? And that was the catalyst for the whole war in heaven, right? That all of a sudden Satan was threatened, or Lucifer or whatever was threatened, right? That big dragon was threatened all of a sudden because this baby was about to be born. It reminds me of Herod, right? And it reminds me, it's weird, there's a real parallel there. And it reminds me of Pharaoh, right? Or if you think about the spirit characteristic, where Herod was jealous just by hearing this prophecy, and so he ordered a massacre of thousands of little infants, right? And then Pharaoh did the same thing, you know what I'm saying? And had little boys, little baby infants dumped in the river and stuff. Who gets that insecure? Gets that besides themselves, gets that becomes threatened over a child, right? Let alone a baby. The baby again has to grow up. What the hell are you worried about a baby for? Right? He's king now. He was king right then, right? But yet he's worried about a baby that's not even born yet. And so he feels so threatened and insecure that he wants to take out thousands of them, hoping to prevent this so-called, this prophecy. And he ain't able to accomplish nothing but his own destruction, right? So again, right, the parallels that, right, how these demons, that's basically what it is. And that's the same thing that they're continuing on to this day, right? Attacking our protectors, attacking our guardians on human and angelic levels, right? So think about that again when you feel or recognize that you're under spiritual attack, when you're under physical attack, when you're going through all these trials and things. Recognize again that it's not just for nothing, it's for God, right? Think about what you're being called to and what you've been going through, what God has brought you through. Like, even the so-called people who are used to supposedly be against you are being manipulated, right? Are being misguided. They're being used so we can take out each other. Again, like I said before, the irony is they're equally important to God, and these demons, these demonic beings, know that. So what better way to get us to make us obsolete is to get us to go against each other without even recognizing why we even coming at each other. About what? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? How come, like, I don't know, why would like, why would Jafar be worried about Aladdin? You know what I'm saying? So, like, that's not a good example, right? But or what would be one? Some billionaire, right? Why would some billionaire be worried about some person stacking paper bags on a conveyor belt in a factory? I'm like, how are you even a concern? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, think about it. But I mean, it's not about so much earthly realms or earthly tasks or earthly duties. Again, is what we're called for ultimately to do for God, whether on earth or in heaven or in between somewhere in mid-heaven, as it talks about in Revelation 6:14, I believe. Right? Yeah, this is pretty long, but I think I'm just gonna post it up there because I need to drink more water. God dang it. And it's just really meaty. But I think I'll go back into this on a part 4 or whatever. But anarchy, right? Demons seeking to turn God's anointed, both angels and humans. 8. Humiliating, chastising, inhibited, redirecting, and rebuking his chosen. You know? So we go into, some detail there about why God might allow you to be hindered or redirecting. You think, and it seems like he's punishing you, but he's actually helping you, right? Or like, dang, I thought I was on the path, and you prevented me from doing this or this or that. You know what I mean? Or it seemed like, I'm like, they wouldn't even been able to do that if you didn't help them. God dang it. Like, I'm trying to do this or this or that, and it's like you being directed. So it's not always, oh, these people are doing all these things against me. Again, think about God's sovereignty and how we may not always recognize His greater purpose in the midst of our struggles, in the midst of our things that are personal goals or things we want to accomplish. We may not recognize how they may not always align with what God wants us to be on path with, especially when we call ourselves His and we claim that we're seeking Him ultimately, and He's gonna do what He feels necessary to keep us aligned with Him, with His ultimate purpose and goals. He may allow us to kick against the goats and hurt our feet and whatnot till we recognize that He wants us on a certain path, this way or that way, right? Going straight towards Him, right? So He may allow us to feel humiliated more than once and more in multiple ways that we may not recognize right away that seem necessary or right? But again, it's about us seeking Him for the revelation, seeking Him for the comfort, seeking Him for the discipline, for the affection, for the guidance, right? Because in particular it says we want God to be able to rein us in. We don't want to be some reckless ping ball, right? Just kicked around and pushed around by whatever, right? We don't want to be some aimless speck of dust, right? We actually want to feel led and directed by the Lord, not just wandering, right? Because again, that makes it easier to be, it makes it seem easier for us to be played with by these elemental spirits, right? It says that in Romans 5, hardship should produce patience. Hardship and suffering should produce patience, right? And patience produces endurance, and endurance produces endurance and perseverance. And endurance and perseverance should prove character, right? So it's not just any type of patience. It's just not any type of situation. But again, how we get through these sufferings, how we face these sufferings, how we face these sufferings through faith. How do we persevere through them? How do we endure them through faith? It's what reveals and proves the true character that we have, or that we're supposed to have, or that we're called to have, right? It's that that narrow way through the fire, right? So again, right, it's not simple, it's not easy, right? It's you know, I was like for example, I have a lot of different ailments and a lot of different pains, and I'm naturally not a very patient person, especially when going through things I deem unnecessary and unfair and not right, especially when they're extremely painful or stressful, right? But that's my natural fleshly characteristic, right? But my true character, or the character that God wants me to have, or that he's trying to mature me to have, is being able to endure these things, right? Endure them is not just absorb them and take them in and hold them in like, yeah, I'm just taking all that in and just being hateful, like I said, and bitter, to the point where you might, you become so cold and callous, you become sadistic, and you're just looking for the opportunity to do evil to people, right? That's not the that's not the character that he's trying to prove, right? That he's trying to bring through the fire, or call gold or silver or whatever the heck, right? That's not what he wants to award. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's about, how do we endure these things? How do we endure them? The patience that we are able to build through understanding, through reverence, through God, through seeking him, through exercising our faith, right, will help guide and lead us and to persevere and keep leading us and pushing us along the path that we should go. And it will reveal the character, the mature character that we're desiring and should desire to have. It will reveal that in time, right? So that's what that is about, right? That's why patience is so necessary. It's one of those ultimate virtues. It's just not taking stuff, right? But it's how you take it. It's how you absorb it, how you process it, and what you do with it, right? How do you, when somebody gives stuff or does stuff to you, whether good or bad, how do you try to return it, right? How do you try to respond to it? You know what I'm saying? Are you just a soundboard? Are you just some racquetball wall? God dang it. You know what I mean? Or are you just transferring stuff, or are you transforming? Right? Oh, Jesus. Right? I'm gonna leave on this one last point. Well, a few other points. And then I'm gonna go over it again in my next video. But it was so meaty. But right. In the movie Divergent, right? There's two examples. In the movie Divergent, there's a heroine. The heroine tries to hide her anomaly, right? Remember, if you've seen the movie Divergent, it appeals to the teenagers and young group, whatever, but I liked it. But the heroine tries to hide her anomaly by pretending that she doesn't automatically know how to recover from the fears of her programmed dreams, by immediately recognizing that they are not real and waking up. There's multiple scenes in there that, she gets scared. She starts dreaming, recognizing she's in dreams. She starts to get scared, and then suddenly she was like, hold up, this isn't real. This is fake. And then she just wakes up and disappears. So they don't want her doing that, because she was able to do that in almost every dream, almost instantly, which revealed her identity as a divergent, right? And they didn't want her to do that right away. They wanted her to try to play along and try to tackle these fears and stuff, as if, she actually needed to tackle these fears. You know what I'm saying? As if they were really happening and stuff. Well, what would she do if she believed they were real? How would she try to address them, right? Not just wake up from them. Oh, it's so loaded. The irony in it is amazing, right? But anyway, right? For another secret or covert divergent, right? Who ends up being her love interest in the movie, humbles her by allowing her to be nipped in the ear when she volunteers to be used as a dagger target practice, right? There's this and they like Four and this other dude seem kind of like good cop, bad cop type of team, right? They're like they're drill sergeants, right? And stuff, where the other dude seems extra, just extra stoked, extra serious and just grimy and whatever, right? Always in her face and stuff. So he has someone go up to the this target, this board where he throws daggers on him. Oh, he was gonna throw daggers on him, and Trish, right? She got, she didn't like that. She got scared for the person, and she was like, cause and she volunteered to replace him, right? Well, the mean drill sergeant type dude didn't like that, right? But all of a sudden, Four volunteered to be the one to throw the daggers at her, right? And so he stepped back and just watched, right? And then, she showed that she, didn't have any fear or whatever. But at one point, he threw one of the daggers and purposely nipped her ear so that her, she would experience, seem to show some fear, right? And surprise, and that, she was bleeding or whatever, right? And she got upset about that. But he did that to humble her, right? And I just wanted you to think about that in line with when God allows us to be humiliated, chastised, inhibited, redirected, or rebuked, right? You know what I mean? Sometimes it's for the most part, it's for our own protection. It's for His will. He's protecting His inheritance. He's guarding them. He wants them to be better. He wants them to be mature. He wants them to be able to handle the little things that He gives them. So if He decides in His discretion, He wants to give us bigger and greater things, that we can actually handle those bigger and greater things. That we're not just grasping for things just because we want a title, right? We want to be seen as so-and-so and so-and-so, and yet we can't even handle a fraction of it or a bit of it, right? Right? And then when He gives us little things that, we don't think these things are so small that we think of them as disposable or not of value, when a lot of the times the most smallest things that he gives us are the most precious. And if we can't even handle that, why would he give us anything that seems to be greater? Right? There's no partiality with God, right? So I was just thinking about that, right? You know, even though she was trying to be helpful, in that moment he was trying to, you know, check her and protect her on two different levels, right? Check her and protect her. Remind her of her own humanity, and keep her in mind that, you know what I'm saying, that, you know, even though, you know, she has these this compassionate heart, and she may be so-called in the movie one of the chosen ones or whatever, she's still human, right? She still has her own frailties and weakness, and she still shouldn't be grasping or wanting or putting herself on blast for all these things that she may not be able to handle just like that. She still has to grow, develop, and mature, right? So, I mean, that's how he was trying to chastise her and help her. In my opinion, how I was trying to see that, right? And this other part, right? And also, I mean, and that seemed to pacify the so-called mean drill sergeant. He was like just hating on her, just waiting for her to fail and stuff. That seemed to pacify and made her let up on her a little bit, because she actually showed some emotion and shit. Emotion and stuff. She didn't seem so hard up to him all of a sudden in that moment. So he, you know, he stepped back a little bit, because she recognized that she has some weaknesses, right? So anyway, right? But parallel that, right, with the movie Hulk, right? Or, you know, there's been different movies with Hulk, right? But and one of the first versions, I don't remember which version it was. The one with Eric Bana or the one with Mr. Norton. Mr. Ed Norton. But anyway, right? I don't know, the first or second one. But anyway, either one, right? They managed to lure him, the military manages to lure him into captivity, right? Through the general's daughter or whatever. And which he has a love interest in, right? And obviously he's not a true monster. That was also indicated in the original series as well, right? And somehow he was able to temperament himself, right? He just didn't. It was just some episode with this baby where he saved this baby's life. He didn't just try to eat the baby like he was some ogre or some stuff, or kill the baby or whatever. Right? Anyway, they lure him into captivity to where then they start all this prodding and testing, where they purposely try to provoke various types of emotions, particularly anger, because they know whenever he gets angry, then all of a sudden he gets, you know, super strong and stuff. This giant beanstalk green man, right? Becomes this giant beanstalk green man, right? And so think about that again, right? They're using that to gauge the range of his emotions and the potential of his responses. So we can consider that again when we're in these dream realms, right? When you think that it's just a candy store, right? And you can do whatever you want, or you can play celebrity because they got all these so-called lights on you and stuff like that, and you just want to be seen or whatever. It's to but yet they can control the level of so-called pseudo pain you feel, or pseudo pleasure you feel, or pseudo fear you feel, right? You know, they're like the elements. It can control those level of elements thrown your way, right? To see what you will do, see how you react, see how you respond, poke and prod, push and pull. You know what I'm saying? Offer you something and then take it away, right? Change up, morph up the scenarios, right? And think about that, you know. And when you think that you're in a free for all, you're still in like a lab, right? So it's what was that movie earlier, Labyrinth? So like the dream world is like a big lab, right? Or training room, right? Okay, so this was long. It was really long. So y'all gonna just have to read the rest of that. So the main points that I wanted y'all to get, though, then I'll go into it more later, is that was the last point. Dream discernment, right? Nearly all dreams are combinations of psychedelic, hallucinogenic, and hallucinogen based on sensory and sensory input or imagination, pseudo, placebo, force fields, gate portals, recordable and both transferable and non-transferable memories, both real and false, projected, holographic, uploaded, hijacked, cross, multicasting, streamed, deepfake, and staged. Notice I said combination, right? Dream stages or environments are unmeasurable traps in plain sight, orchestrated by perceived sensory and control and or consciousness. Key baits are immeasurable pleasure, immeasurable pain, like I said already, unlimited morphability or inhibition of, unlimited abilities, discretionary ambiguity or anonymity, and endless realms or stages. Dream manipulators compile, stream multiple facets of consciousness through body organ frequency, channeling, and hacking. Body frequencies can be channeled and duplicated through satellites, touchscreen, plasma devices such as smartphones, video, audio recordings, measuring patterns, sequences, and pitches, and occultic practices related to necromancy. Dead people. So what Ghost, right? Casper and his brothers. Oh, that Slimer, right? Main things. Jesus is the vine, the true door, gateway, ultimate defender, right? Of all these fatal senses with dreams, where is the breathing and smelling? Right? These things I want you to keep in mind, right? Phases and escalation when you're analyzing these dream scenarios and patterns. Repeat themes. Red herrings and Blue's Clues, right? Like, for example, right? When I start realizing when my dreams were more than regular dreams, right? When I first start realizing that, what's on the level of the patterns of them, the type of imagery and people, whether strange people or family members or people I seen on TV, and then how these dreams were forming off of things I wasn't even watching, or how they seemed directly related to something I was watching. But in particular, a few things stood out to me. Right? Like in the beginning, right? When I was scared, when I didn't know really what was happening, I just viewed them as dreams. Like, these are just dreams. They're all in my mind, or whether being sent my way. I have no power whatsoever in them. But then initially, like I think I said this before, when I start speaking out, refusing or rejecting or saying stop, leave me alone, or screaming out, right? These things would change up. They act like they heard me or would listen, and then we would think, oh, if this is a dream, they wouldn't do that, So like, the heck, something's weird about that, right? Though that was in the very beginning when I start recognizing I had some sort of level of control or power, right? But as soon as I realized that, then they start changing. The scenarios start changing up a little bit, right? Like when I start recognizing that I can yell and scream or fight, then all of a sudden, then I have all my superheroes sent my way, threatening to beat me up, like Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris and Jet Li and Jackie Chan. I'm like, why the hell would they all of a sudden want to beat me up? I'm like, hold up. So therefore, I'll be intimidated or scared to want to fight these things. I'm like, since when did you become the bad guy? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, hold up. You know what I'm saying? Just weird things, right? There's the two dream scenarios in particular, right? There was this one with my son when he was real little. And once I recognized these things, that was like basically it from there. And then I realized that it's like these things are really convoluted and contrived. But there was these lions. We was supposedly in this desert, and all of a sudden it was just me and my son appeared. My little baby son, he was probably like in like junior high at that time, right? All of a sudden we appeared in this desert, and these lions, these giant lions, all of a sudden try to attack us, right? And at first they wasn't trying to attack me. They went right for my son for some reason, right? They didn't go for me. They went right to my son. We were right next to each other, and they went right to my son, right? So I tried to get them off my son. They was trying to scratch him, claw at him with their claws and whatever. And then I start throwing sand. I got mad and tried to grip them, throwing sand at their eyeballs. And one thing was weird. I noticed their eyes. They didn't have regular eyes, regular animal eyes. They had blue eyes, right? One of them in particular had blue eyes. I don't remember what the other one. And then there was something weird, and I noticed things about things. So it was something really weird about their eyes when I threw it. It's like they acted like they felt that, and it disturbed them. And their eyes got all watery and teary. I was like, what the hell? So it was like, and I woke up from that, right? There was another dream I had where my kids were little, and it was a hospital scene. I had been in a hospital before on different occasions, because before I had used to be suicidal and depressed and stuff like that. So it was a dream about that. It seemed like it was in that theme of threatening of me going back in a hospital, and these people come and take my kids away and put me in a hospital, right? But it was weird. In the beginning of the dream, there was this huge mountain, like this extra high up mountain. And then they had these angels, or looked like angels at first, had beautiful wings. But they were floating down the mountain with parachutes. So I was like, since when do angels need parachutes? They have wings. Why do they have parachutes? So I was like, in that same dream, right? I was like struck by that. Like, that didn't make any damn sense to me. Like, why would I imagine angels and then imagine them having to use a parachute, right? And then this thing tried to snatch my baby, and I was trying to choke the heck out of this lady, right? For trying to take my baby from me, take my little daughter from me, right? But she wouldn't fight back. The lady wouldn't fight me back for some reason. I'm thinking, I'm just holding this lady's neck, right? And she's not able to do nothing at first, right? Until I'm distracted by this other dude who morphs into something else, and all of a sudden I let go of the lady, and then I wake up. But I was just like, it was just weird things that doesn't make any sense, right? Like the angels and parachutes, and then this lady turns around. When she goes in front of me, this lady that's supposed to be an angel starts walking in front of me, and then she doesn't have any underwear on the back of her, right? And then she like has one of them cowboy pants on, it seemed like, where the back is exposed. So I was like, what the hell was that? You know what I'm saying? And then it make no sense. I had a lot more strange dreams than that, but it was just like, those are just things that just make you like, you know what I mean? And I started looking at other things. So red herrings and blue clues that give you the notion that these things are beyond just some normal vision or scheme that your brain just threw together, but they're really, really orchestrated and contrived, right? Dreams that never glorify God by idolatry or ego. Dreams not aligned with the teachings of Christ. Plain and simple, right? Dreams that don't offer rebuke, correction, reconciliation, or repentance. All they want to do is screw you, right? Or try to get you to kill somebody, or try to make you afraid, right? Or none of that. It's just like you watching a TV show. You don't even seem involved. Like, what the heck is this? Right? But they don't align with the prophecies of the Bible. Right? Don't align with none of it. Right? Dreams that do not warn but threaten. Right? God doesn't threaten people. You know what I'm saying? His prophecies are based on promise, not on threats. His prophecies are prophecies because they're destined to happen. They're not something that's just looming over us. So like, he'll do that depending on this or this or that. No, they're guaranteed to happen. Right? Dreams that don't line up prophetically with the prophecies of Christ. Right? Now, in this last part, and then I'm gonna go. Right? Now, there's this saying in Shakespeare. I forgot which it was Midsummer or something. I think it's one of Midsummer play or whatever. But there's this saying talk about protesting too much, right? If you protest too much, it's kind of like you're why you're protesting too much. It's kind of like you might be a charlatan or something. You might come off like the boy that cried, Peter, the boy that cried wolf or whatever, right? But just think about that for a minute, right? So if you fall into that, not that doesn't have any truth to it in some cases, in some particular situations, but we have to be careful with that, right? Again, you have to go to God, and you have to go in with yourself and analyze yourself and go to him on like, why are you doing what you're doing? You know, when you're trying to help people, when you're trying to pray, when you're trying to speak against these things, when you're trying to exercise your faith, when you're trying to warn people, because that's a ploy from the enemy. The enemy can use that as a ploy to discourage you so you don't try to move forward. You know, you align yourself with these things that you are destined, supposed to, called to speak against. You know what I'm saying? Contend against, right? Defend against. So because you're worried about what other people say, your so-called reputation precedes you, then you don't do nothing. You're just like, oh, I just put it out there, or I was just saying all this. And people just think you're defending yourself, or you're just, again, trying to wear a title that doesn't really fit or match with your actions or your lifestyle, right? You just, want attention or whatever. And that's not what it is. Ongoing trauma can lead to baseless doubting and a magnet and magnifier for scrutiny. Consider Thomas, Paul, Peter, Nicodemus, Elijah, Jeremiah, Job, and Jesus' cousin John the Baptist when he was imprisoned and beheaded. Stress can lead you to misperceive personal reproach and affliction until you begin to pray and humble yourself more diligently before God in order to receive revelation of others grieving in parallel circumstances, right? Often we begin to calm down and get back in the right perspective when we start seeing Jesus again. We're not focused on the storm, and then also we recognize that we're not alone on the water. Like, Peter might have got a little distracted at first because he started thinking he was alone on the water. He forgot that Jesus was right in front of him. In our particular circumstances, we might forget that, we have family members, we have neighbors, we have community members, people that we're not always easily seeing because these things try to manipulate our interests, our media, our feed, right? So we might think we're alone in the water, or alone on the, or alone in the dream spirit realm. Like I was saying earlier in my other video, but they're all intertwined and connected. That's the whole purpose of it, to try to put you on blast and put these other things on blast, to get as many birds with one stone as possible, right? You might forget that we're not alone in the city, in the desert. We're not alone, right? We just, get stuck on ourselves, fall into conceit, get stuck in the mirror off of things that are not even our image, right? So, again, it's about waking up and about seeking the Lord. So I'm going to end with that. Consider the persistent widow. I thought I put that in there. I don't know where it is in there. But there it is. It's in Luke 18. Right? The parable of the persistent widow. This lady who kept her petitioning the judge of this town to bring justice, right? And Jesus was using it as like, that's what he will do for his people, but will he find faith? And so the thing is, just think of how constantly the enemy is trying to wear us down. That's the whole point of this repetition, these cycles, these redundancies, right? To wear us down. And you know what I'm saying? He doesn't sleep. He doesn't get tired. It's not a heat, okay? These things, they don't get that's their sole agenda. That's what they live off of. That's what they thrive. That's what they spore off of, right? They need us to cave into these things. So if you're quick to give up, they can almost always bet that they'll get you to quit and back down and give up, right? And then they can just do what they want with you, right? But when you back out, when you let go of something, what are you backing out and letting go of, right? Are you letting go of God? Are you letting go of family? Right? Are you distancing yourself from? Are you making a bargaining tool your soul? Right? Because you're already then you will seem already defeated, already captured, right? Already captured in captivity with the enemy, right? So he'll think that he has full reign. These things will think they have full reigns on you, and thinks they can outrun you, right? If you're focused on them, if you're just focused on getting away from them, you'll never get away from them. We're hemmed in all around, right? You're not going to get away from these things are meant and sent to buffet you, right? You're not going to get away from these things that are meant and sent to discipline you. You're not going to get away from these things that are meant and sent to try to destroy you if ultimately, right, you're against God. You're not going to escape them. If your lifestyle, your actions, your truest desires are against God, you're not going to escape these things, right? So your only position of power is walking in the authority and the full confidence and knowledge of your faith, of your Lord and Savior, of your Heavenly Father, of who you are as His child, wherever you are, right? Now, that doesn't mean that we can't walk away from things, but we're not running away from things, right? We're not running away. That doesn't mean we can't walk away from things, but that doesn't mean we're not called to run away from things. Wherever we are, if we're walking in authority. What my daughter told me, reminded me of the other day of the week. When you're walking in authority and confidence of your faith, these things have to fall back. These things have to listen to you. But if they don't recognize you, right? If they don't recognize you as obedient and faithful or whatever, they're going to constantly challenge you as much as they feel like it. As much as they're going to constantly try to go to head with you, as much as God allows them, or as much you allow them by your own actions, right? That's just what they're going to do, right? So again, you have to decide and get fixated and get firm in what you're going to do and who you are in the path that you are, whatever so-called, again, playing field, plateau, plane, whether it be a floodplain or some so-called platform somebody trying to stick you on, right? Or bring you down from, supposedly, as if you weren't already flat, right? Or suspend you in, right? He just floating around in the air like dust or whatever, right? Or a cloud. So there's a quote from Terminator, right? It says, listen and understand, the Terminator is out there. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity, remorse, or fear, right? And it absolutely will not stop ever until you are dead. Now, I analyze things at multiple angles. I'm just thinking about that at multiple levels. Think about that if you're not right with God, right? That's something to fear. Think about that if you're with God, right? And you have an enemy that's always going to want to try to throw you off of that. He can't take out God. These things can't take out God, but they're going to always try to challenge you, throw you off of that, right? But the ultimate point of that is to sharpen you, mature you, discipline you in position. So they feel like that's the ultimate challenge. If they can take you off, then you didn't deserve to be on there in the first place to them, right? And you shouldn't be able to go back on there. Because, Satan supposedly is unreconcilable, but that's by choice. So how much more, supposedly, how much more does he want to prove that for anybody else, right? He wants to try to establish that, right? So, like, if he can't be reconciled and he doesn't want to reconcile, how much more is he trying to make that the case for everyone else who falls short of the grace of God, right? But God already said, that's why he sent Jesus. He already made the bridge. He already sent a way. So, again, right? We're going to have this contender. Let's see this movie or a song. Pretenders or contenders. We're always going to have these so-called contenders. Not so much that they really want our position, but they just might just want to knock you down from it, right? Just to say that they can or they could, right? Not that they actually want to do what you claim to be doing, if you claim to be doing work for God. Because obviously if they wanted to do that, they would be doing it, right? So, think about it. So, dream discernment, okay? Dream discernment. Not everything is what it seems. There's more. There's more that meets the eye. What is it? There's more to meets the eye. There's more to whatever meets the eye. How does it go? Meet the eye. What's the eye? Meet the eye. More than meets the eye. Anyway, God bless.